Good evening. Hi. The more you fail, the more you succeed. It is only when everything is lost and, instead of giving up, you go on, that you experience the momentary prospect of some slight progress. Suddenly, you have the feeling, be it an illusion or not, that something new has opened up. Alberto Giacometti. Enjoy.
Good evening, my friends. Hi. Happy Saturday. Yeah, my name's Laura Shawnette, and it is my privilege to once again welcome you back to the Sheridan Opera House for our third night of OT 22. Yeah, the program that we have for you tonight, I have been looking forward to for such a long time. We are, something I've been speaking to in different spaces, including the women's circles, that I really feel like our program this year is a celebration of just badass women. I might have said that last night too. And I feel like this show is truly no exception. And in this show, which is called The Journey Up, with kind of a subtitle that is Disrupting Broken Systems, we will meet three women who they've identified issues in their communities or in their own lives, maybe that others are experiencing as well, and used original thinking, used very creative action, or used a lot of courage to solve them. And they've done it in such drastically different but powerful ways, and we will get to see those stories through many different mediums. We'll get to talk with them, and I can't wait for you to see what we have in store. I want to, before we dive totally in, I really want to thank Gabrielle, Louise, and Ryan for the music they opened up with. Give it up for them, yes. Thank you. We're so lucky. I feel like we've been riddled with great music all weekend, and I'm just feeling really stoked in general. I would say, oh yes, thank you. If you enjoyed their music, which I know you already did, please support them by visiting their merch table downstairs. It's at the bottom of the stairs. You can grab some of their music, some of their shirts, and yeah, it's always great to support our independent artists that are working with us. Let's see. Let's kick things off. Let's get into it. I would love to invite the director of our first film, which is a beautiful short film called Street Reporter, Laura Hinson, the director. Please come up. Hey, Laura.
Hi.
So before we watch this film, is there anything that you'd like the audience to keep in mind, or is there anything you'd like to share with us going in about why you made this film?
Sure.
As far as you want to go, because we're going to talk through this a little more later.
That's right. We'll talk more later. But I am so grateful to be here. Thank you, Laura and David and Cynthia and everyone who's rolled out such a red carpet for us, our team. We're so honored to be here. I live in Washington, D.C. I've been there for 2 decades. And most people, I think, have an image of D.C. that you see in the news, right? And you see kind of the federal city of power. And there's also another side of Washington, D.C. that many people don't see. Mm-hmm. And like many cities in the U.S., we have a major issue with homelessness. And I've been reflecting a lot about what we've been kind of thinking about here at the festival. And when we think about homelessness, it's better.
Thanks.
Our brains really can't wrap our minds around the enormity of that issue, right? It generates hopelessness a lot of times when we try to wrap our minds around the enormity. And so really this is a story of one person. This is a story of one woman's journey through homelessness and out of homelessness. And I think that's the reason that I went to tell a story of one person, because I think that our hearts can attach to a single person, and our hearts can, out of that, begin to feel hope and see a future and see solutions in a way that we can't when the problem is too big and there's too much many numbers in front of us. So
Absolutely.
that's it.
Awesome. And we'll unpack that further after the film. Please enjoy Street Reporter.
Thank you.
Please welcome back Laura Hinson, the director, and Sheila White. Yeah, Sheila.
Great to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, for real. Thank you. Thank you.
Standing ovation. I love that. Welcome, ladies. I'm so glad you're here. You all might have noticed on your walk-in that we actually have some copies of Street Sense downstairs. We put a little box out too, if you'd like to pick any up on your way out and support the community of folks that produce it and who are experiencing homelessness in the DC area. Sheila was so kind to bring some, and she's featured in this issue particularly, which I've been reading front to back and can highly recommend. Ladies, thank you for sharing this film with us. I think it's a great way to kick this program off. And I think that the first question I have is, how did you two connect? How did you find each other?
Sure.
Or are you on?
I'm on. Hello. Hello.
Got orange over here. Looking for some heat.
Should I'll touch another button.
I got
Hello. Check. Sure. Okay. Great. Thank you. Oh.
Hello. Oh, now it's hot. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I mentioned I live in Washington, and I teach at American University, which has gotten a little bit of visibility today with the film earlier this afternoon. And I teach in the film department, and I lead something called the Community Voice Lab. And the lab is a program at our film school that connects filmmakers of the program to local storytellers in the DC region in a process of collaborative filmmaking. And one of our students had been working with Street Sense Media, Brian Bello, who's the producer of the film, and he had co-founded the Filmmakers Co-op at Street Sense. And Street Sense is, if any of you have ever, been to DC, you've probably seen some of the folks who sell the paper. And Brian introduced me to the reporters at Street Sense, and we kind of started talking with them and with our team of grad students who were working on the project with me about possibly following their team of reporters as they were following the issue of Tent City. And so the idea was going to be to kind of create this meta story. And so I met Sheila, who was one of the team of reporters. And at first I didn't know the film was going to be about Sheila. And over time,
Me neither.
but we just connected, and she wanted to soak up everything. She really wanted to be on the crew. She didn't really want to be the focus of the film. And so that's how we first met.
Sheila, what was your thought when you were approached for this project? Were you like, no thanks, or I'm totally game?
No, I was game.
Yeah.
The reason why I was game because we do workshops at Street Sense. I learned how to do photography, and it was a way to express how I feel about issues that's going on in Washington, D.C. And I met Brian, and we just said, like as you said at the beginning of the film, how we're talking about how we're going to strategize in doing this and getting people involved in it. So I learned I love photography. I was homeless. I didn't have no ID anymore because that got robbed. So I went to Street Sense. I got a little bad. So to me, in my mind, I was like, if I die on the street, at least somebody recognize me now because I have an ID. I have a little badge, something with my picture on it. And I just found myself loving the photography workshop, loving the film co-op workshop, loving the theater workshop. And it gave me a sense of purpose to, now how can I get people to realize that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. And how could I do that? So when Laura came to me and was like, well, you can go take the pictures and you can do this. And I'm like, a light bulb went off. I'm like, okay, cool. I can take these pictures. I can do this. And then this woman, she wrote a letter, and she sent it to Street Sense, and I came in and I was like, some lady wrote me a letter, and she was like feeling my pain. But at the same time, she was like, well, what can I do to help? Which was the thing that I wanted people to see, because I was like, well, you know, you can advocate. And she was like thanking me, like, even though you're going through this struggle and you're doing all this, your resilience to want to make a difference made her want to make a difference. You know,
Your story was so inspiring.
so it was like advocating to the people. Like, it's like when I do the visual, I do a visual where we do it every year to commemorate people that died on the streets without the dignity of a home. We have a lot of people in DC have died before they could get housed. And in the film where I have the mic, which I do every year in December the 21st, which is the coldest day of the month in DC. And it's like, what do we want? And what do we want? And when do we want it? And we go housing now. And to me, it was like, man, if we can just house people. I mean, I'm on the streets every day looking at somebody sleeping on the street. But no one's advocating or helping. And the message I wanted to get out was for people to write to their congressmen in their states and their women and say, well, look, this is a problem. How can we fix this problem? What are some of the solutions can we use and do? What are some of the laws can we change? So these are the things that made me want to go with the film with her. I didn't realize I was going to be telling my story, to be honest with you. But I'm an honest person. I was like, things were starting to resonate in my mind. I'm like, man, I grew up in a domestic violence home. And my story resonated with me, and I was telling it to Laura. And she put it in the film. And she was like, DC Village. I was like, it was a place for people my age to go to be safe, away from, my home was in a turmoil when I was a child. And when I first seen the film and I seen DC Village on there, I kind of had tears in my eyes. Because I'm like, all I wanted was my mom, you know? All I wanted was to be with my mom. And I could be with my mom, but then the violence would start again from my father doing it, that we back in there again. So I really had some mixed feelings of her showing that, but I'm like, no, they need to see that even though I went through this as a child, I grew up with joy in my heart because of what my mom taught me. The times that I did get to spend with her, her birthday is today. And I miss her so much. But I take what she taught me, you know, you love everybody. And I just love people. And I'm like, I'm glad she showed that. I'm really glad she showed the fact that even though my life was hectic as a child, I didn't make my life hectic as an adult. I did the opposite. See, most of us will look at that film and say, well, yeah, she became a drug addict and this and that. No, I didn't do none of that. I did the opposite of what my life was like as a child. I was like, if I can just make a difference in somebody's life, then I've done something meaningful. And that's where I'm at today. It's still trying to do something to make everybody's life meaningful, just as well as mine. So, yeah, I can rabble on too.
Well, I was like,
So, yeah.
I feel like you just answered all the questions I was kind of working up in one. Thank you, Sheila. Well, you actually spoke to something that I picked up on in the film that I thought was really interesting. Like early on, there was a quote that I also, I'm sure, throughout the story you kind of pulled in, and you were saying, no one who has never been homeless can tell me how I feel. But then you had this really powerful experience at the end when you received this letter from a woman who was so moved by your action and so inspired. And there was clearly a difference. She was like, I've never been in your shoes, but I feel your pain. And it felt like there was definitely a big difference there. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it was a big difference for me there. I think she just gave me the, how you say, you know, just to carry on, you know? And she wanted to know how she could help. And I was like, like I said earlier, write to your congressman. And the resilience, she just instilled more in me. And, I'm upset because I don't have that letter, because I would have loved to write to her and let her know, this is what you can do. You can go to your congressman. You can go to your state authorities and say, well, look, what are these rules and regulations for people to get housed or whatever? But she just reminded me of the resilience I have for life and for other people. And she just inspired me to just keep, pushing on. And for somebody who's never been homeless and been in my shoes, that was powerful for me, because I made a difference in somebody's life that's trying to make a difference in somebody else's life. So that was really powerful, for me, because she's never been homeless or none of that. And she wants to make a difference. And that's basically what the message I'm trying to put out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. Before we run out of time and I hog all of your time, I just wanted to see if anyone in the audience had any questions for Sheila or Laura. Sorry, I can't see you. You? Yep, up there. If I could see you, I'd call you by name.
Sheila,
Yes.
Sheila, thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story. I have a question. Were you involved in a Housing First program in D.C.? And if you were and you're knowledgeable, can you share why Housing First is so effective and helpful for homeless people?
I do have done some speaking for them or whatever for Housing First. It's really a program where we talk about like the voucher issues, the credit issues, whatever type of issues that people are having problems with of getting housed. And most of the biggest problem we are having when people do get a voucher is because they either were a felon, they have bad credit, or the landlord just don't want to rent to them, period. And some have all three, some don't have none. But we're trying to change them type of laws to say, hey, look, you're discriminating. Because basically that's what they're doing. Because the government says, look, you're building these homes and stuff for people, and you're supposed to have so many that are for the people that are less fortunate, or that are underclass, middle class, or whatever the case may be. But then you're turning around with these loopholes and tell them, well, they can't use their voucher at my premises. And that's against the law, really. Because when you're a developer, most developers have what they have, they set aside certain many, apartments or whatever for low-income families. So, it's so many loopholes. I mean, I went through so many loopholes just to try to get the apartment I got now that I really almost gave up. But then it was like, well, even though I'm homeless, I'm still gonna be fighting, and I still want my education. I still care. I still this. But my mind was racing because it was like, what is my problem? I'm not a felon. What is your problem? My credit, I straightened my credit up. What is your problem now? What did I do that I can't get an apartment? I'm following all your guidelines. I don't have a jail history. I'm not a criminal, but you're treating me like one. Mm-hmm. So we do that model for Housing First because we have so many people. You have families out here. I'm walking down the street and I see a boy homeless, sleeping on a crate, no more than 16, 15 years old. Then you have a family over here that just got flooded out. But guess what you do? You put us all in one bunch, and you forget that we are human first.
That's something I feel like when you shared the scene about Mike and even the cat, I know that it was these connections to just feeling like a human, and how like a home is so much more than just shelter, and a home provides so much beyond that, and that humanizing component that this film shared, and Sheila, that your story shares, that I am so thankful to have. I'm so thankful to both of you for being part of this, and I hope that we're going to chat more later after the show, and thank you so much. I appreciate
You're welcome.
Sheila
Thank
and
you.
Laura. Up next, we have a really amazing speaker to share with you. I'm going to set my paper down. We actually met her through a friend of Original Thinkers, Jedediah Jenkins, who's been here a couple of times, was listening to his podcast, and this person came on, and as we were talking about these different themes, we were like, wait, this makes so much sense. This person, the system disruption that she displayed, I think of as identifying issues in a belief system that did not support or accept her as she was, and seeing it took a lot of courage to identify that and to take steps out of it. And she has since gone on to write books about it and support others in their stories as they, kind of find their own truth. And she's going to speak a little bit to that, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A. So please welcome to the stage, Brit Barron.
There you are. Hi. I was like, where'd she go?
How's it going? Good. That film was amazing. Can we just give it up one more time for Sheila and the filmmakers? I was like starstruck backstage watching her. This has been an absolutely incredible weekend, and I feel so honored to share the stage with so many thinkers and creators. And it's just truly, I can't even believe I get to stand here and share some words with y'all. So thanks for listening. Not that you chose to. Some of you are like, I'm just waiting for the next film. It's fine. I'm here for the next few minutes. When it comes to disrupting systems, it's interesting because the system that I was born into, the system that I was raised in, the system that I found a home in, I did not think of as bad or corrupt, right? I loved it. It was my home, and that system was evangelical Christianity. Any evangelicals in the room? It was a trick. No, I'm just kidding. But my dad was in ministry. My dad was a pastor, and so we lived and breathed church, and so much of it was so beautiful. It was always instant community, friends, things to do. It was a world within a world. Like, I grew up in the evangelical church in the 90s. Like, it was at its peak of like separation from everything else. Like, we had Christian schools, Christian bookstores, Christian bowling alleys, like Christian books. Like, you could live your whole life and just be in this bubble. And there was something that felt so safe about that to me, right? Like, feeling like, okay, we're doing it right. We've got the right answers. We've got all the right books, and I get to live inside of this box in this bubble, right? And for a long time in my life, it felt like that. It felt safe. And a lot of evangelicalism started to identify itself as what we weren't or what we didn't do. Like, if you just write down the list, like, what makes you a Christian? Like, in high school, I'd be like, I don't drink and I don't smoke. Like, that was like, what I don't do is who I am. And by the way, it was pretty simple for a long time in my life. It was like, don't smoke, don't drink, don't be gay. And spoiler, that third one is where they really got me. So I existed in this world, and it felt simple, it felt safe, and I started to be pretty good at it. And I went as deep in it as I could go because I really, as a person, loved people and wanted to help people and wanted to do good in the world. And this was the avenue that I had. This is the lane that I had been given. And so I went to Christian college, and I worked at a different Christian college and Christian camps. And then at the ripe age of 26, I got the opportunity to be a pastor at a mega church. Woo, yeah. I don't know if that was applause or like, what? I felt the same. I feel the same looking back. So much lights, lasers, fog machines. It was a wild adventure. It was quite the experience. And so I had this whole identity wrapped up in what I'm not, but what I get to be a part of is this system. And in helping people, my understanding of helping people was inviting them into that system outside of their self, that system that's separate from their own identity, that's separate from everything else. Come to this system, and that is my way of helping. And I really, truly felt that. I did feel that, and I believed that, and I just wanted to do good in the world. And this was the book that I'd been handed that says, here's how you do good. You don't do these things, and you invite people not to do them with you, right? And I was like, easy. And then they're like, you're kind of funny, so you can do that invitation from stage. And I was like, great. This is a great journey for my life. So at 26, I was like, I found the thing that I'm going to do forever. And like 2 months into working at this church, I met this girl. And I was like, what is different here? And it was the beginning of a lot of questions, because I realized in that moment, I always say Sammy was the mirror that I needed to truly see myself, or to start seeing myself. Because I don't have this story that I always knew I was queer and I was closeted and I hid it. I truly knew nothing about myself. And I didn't realize that until I was well into my 20s and well into adulthood, that I don't know anything about me. I know everything about the system. I know everything about the rules. I know everything I'm supposed to do. I know nothing about myself. I didn't even know I was gay. I'm 27. I'm like, what? I like girls? The signs were there. Hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I was like, no one, you could have told me. And so I meet this girl, and we become quick friends. And then a few months later, I'm like, oh, I'm in love. This is love. And what do I do now, right? Because having one of the most purest experiences of my entire life, something that finally feels real. I'm starting to see myself. It's like a Claritin commercial, where it's all foggy, and then all of a sudden it's really clear. And I was like, okay, I get it. But then realizing that who I am would put me on the outside of the only home I've ever known, of the only community that I had, of the only system I understood, of the only way of being that I knew how to be was inside this box, and this reality about myself would put me outside of that box. And I didn't know what to do. Because it wasn't just simply leaving a job, because at the job I worked at the church that I was a pastor, you could not be gay. And by the way, this isn't like Alabama in the 60s. This is Los Angeles like 6 years ago. And it wasn't even just my job, right? It was community, it was friends, it was family, it was purpose, and it was identity. If you all were here yesterday, there was a lot of conversation about purpose and meaning, because that is so fundamental to who we are. And my entire purpose, meaning, community, identity, everything fit inside of this box pretty neatly, right? Until these new things about me started to emerge. I felt conflicted for a long time about what to do, because it all just felt hard. And I was just scared. I was scared that I was going to lose my job, friends, family, all of it. And also, I didn't know what to do next. Like, no one just walks up and they're like, hi, I was a megachurch pastor. Can I work at your tech company? Like, that's not really a thing that people do. I'm like, I have no transferable skills also. And so eventually, ultimately, I decided to choose myself, and to choose love, and to choose this beautiful thing that was happening in me. Yay, yeah, I did it. We did it. Sammy's here now, we're married. But here's the reality. Every single thing that I was afraid of happened. Not without fail. I would make a list. Here's what I'm afraid of will happen if I come out. Every single one of them, check. And it was very, very, very hard. And I made it. And after that, I realized, I think it's all hard. I think being human is the hardest job we will ever have. Hard is the price of admission. And we get to choose what kind of hard we participate in. It would be hard to shove myself into a box that I didn't fit in, and it's hard to break out of that box. But guess what? One hard leads to more freedom and more healing, and that's the one that I want to choose, right? And I think that's the best any of us can do, because it's all going to be hard. Every single person in this room has made choices between hard or hard, right? And one hard just has more freedom on the other end of it, right? It's hard to ignore things and it's hard to go to therapy. They're both hard, but one of them's gonna leave you a little bit better than it found you, right? Just a therapy plug. And so on the other side of it, one thing that became really, really important to me is I just don't want to define myself anymore by what I'm not. I spent so much time doing that. And it was so tempting to leave that and being like, I'm not like this. I'm not like that religion. I don't believe in that God. I don't do that thing. And I don't participate in that stuff. That would have been really easy. And honestly, I did do that for a while. And then I was like, but what am I about? What do I do? What do I believe? What can I participate in? And the parts of me that found so much home in evangelicalism and wanted to help, they were still there. So how do I bring healing and hope, and how do I participate in these things? And I realized I have to do it for me first. I had a mentor tell me one time, you can only experience joy to the depth at which you're willing to experience pain because they come from the same well. I know. Ugh, if you are an Enneagram 7, if you know what that means, I love being happy, so that one really hurt. But I think the same is true for healing. You can only bring healing to the depth at which you've been willing to heal yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. And so in thinking about how I wanted to disrupt these systems and make all these change and heal and help people, I'm like, no, girl, you need to help yourself, right? You have to do the work before you can invite someone into the work, because what I want to invite people into is not something that would put them outside of themselves. What I wanted to invite people into is returning home to themselves. Because I do fundamentally believe that the dismantling of every corrupt and awful system that we have in our world starts with a single person returning home to themselves. And with that, it changed the way that I see the people who stand where I stood. I would love to, and sometimes if I have a few too many drinks, I do just hate on megachurch pastors and that whole life. But in my best, most present mind, I don't want to do that, because I realize that what that is not bad and inherently bad people or these bad things, but that is a place that needs freedom. And that doesn't change the work, but it changes my approach to the work. It doesn't change the reality that these systems need to be addressed, that we are not doing good, that bad things are happening, that people are oppressed in these systems. But if I see these people as just bad people and archaic dinosaurs who believe something that is so antiquated and and all of these things, yes, okay, all of these things exist, but that is a place that fundamentally needs freedom and needs healing. And that doesn't change the work that we need to dismantle these systems, but it should change our approach. That the people who didn't vote like us, don't believe like us, don't live like us, don't do all these things like us, they are people who need an invitation to transformation and freedom. If they don't take it, we're going to do some things, right? It doesn't change the fact that these systems need to be addressed, but it should change our approach to addressing these systems. I was just talking to Sheila backstage before they came out to talk about the film, which was amazing. And she was saying, even though now I'm housed, I have even more empathy for folks who aren't housed. And so even though now we're on the other side, right? Even though now I believe all these things and I feel so open, even though now that we're so progressive and we don't believe the things that we used to believe from our towns or whatever it is, that should create empathy and wanting to bring freedom and healing to the people who still need freedom and healing. I want to invite people to go on the same journey that I have been invited to go on. And I feel like they deserve that, and I hope they take that invitation, and I hope I get to be the one that extends it. So all that to say, the systems must be confronted. But if we can confront them with empathy and an invitation to transformation, I think we're going to be doing a good work, not easy work, but good work. Do I go back? Yeah. Okay.
Brit Barron. Whoa, that was hot. Sorry. Brit Barron, everybody. Brit's actually giving a Sunday sermon tomorrow that I would like to invite you all to at the Transfer Warehouse. It'll be opened with a sound bath, and it'll be even longer. And I'm just so excited. Please come. It starts at 9:30 or at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Thank you. Can't give bad info. Thank you for this. Thank you for being here. I wanted to, as a fellow queer person who fled the church, I was really relating to a lot of that, feeling really seen in that. I was really curious if you could speak a little bit to the work that you're doing now. Like how has this translated into your work now?
Yeah.
This journey you've been on.
Great question. So, like I said and believe, I think so much of our existence and time here as humans is just trying to make meaning of what it means to be here. And I believe that it is very powerful to have a spirituality and a faith that allows you to make that meaning in a way that is helpful. And so that is still work that I'm very interested in. And I actually currently get to be a pastor at a church in Los Angeles that is very open and welcoming. Obviously, I'm a pastor, and but a place where we get to have those conversations of how can we hold both. Because I don't think that we need to give up our faith and spirituality, but I think we can have it in a way that actually works and makes sense for our lives.
Did you? Yes, I agree with that for sure. And in navigating the kind of shift of your belief system and like what to keep and what to drop, what was your baseline for that? If I can ask.
Great question. Yeah.
I've also thought.
I'm still asking. I think there is. Oh gosh, I think we know when something makes sense, and I'm not like we know when something works, and we know when something is true and good. And I did go through a phase where I was like, I need to take everything off of the table to see if there's anything that I actually want to bring back onto the table. And that has been a long and slow journey. But everything that exists currently on my table, I feel so good about and so grounded in.
It's a full recalibration, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
It sounds just like so hard after, having something so ingrained in you from the jump and from the get-go and to kind of weave through that or wipe it totally clean. That was something I found myself really kind of wondering what your approach to that was in such a scary time and in such a scary place. Do we have any questions out there? Yeah, David.
Yeah, I'm so curious. Religion is cratering in this country in a lot of ways. Churches are closing. These places of gathering are changing. For you, what you had to go through, so many other people who are queer, the abuses of various churches, is that a good thing that's closing? Did we rebuild them? Is it a bad thing? What do you think?
Question was, with all of the turmoil happening in churches across the country, if I can paraphrase, including abuse and not accepting queer people, et cetera, is it a good thing that those churches are closing, or is that bad?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, obviously, nuance and everything, but in general, personally, I think it's a good thing. I think we are always meant to evolve. I think the story is always meant to get bigger, and when we stop that evolution, it dies. And I think that's what's happening right now in a lot of religion, and I think that is absolutely a good thing, because something new needs to grow, and I think it is growing. And I say all the time that I think queer people are going to lead the revolution on what we do next with church and religion, right? Only because they relate so much to the narratives that we see in so much of our sacred text. So that was a long answer, but short answer, yes.
I want to hear a lot more about that.
Yeah.
Please. It doesn't have to be the second, but I really want to know more about that. Yes, EK? Or you're telling me to slow. Okay, that I have 5 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we love a 2 for 1.
I know. Are you talking to me?
I'd like to hear maybe speak about when someone has a belief system and you don't fit in their box. I currently am in this situation. how do you speak to them through empathy and compassion instead of from a place of injury?
Oh, if you don't fit in someone else's belief system and you are on the outside and that is hurtful, how do you connect with them in spite of that? Is that an okay way to repeat that? With empathy and compassion. Yep, instead of from injury. Cool.
I mean, that's a big question. I think a few things. I think one, things are always harder when they're personal. You know, something your mom says is a lot different than someone on Twitter. But I think there's a few things. One, I think boundaries are one of the kindest things we can do, both for ourselves and the people in our lives. I think when there is a lack of openness to a conversation, to an evolution, to a movement, I have had this time in my life many times where I just have to ask myself, okay, if this feels immovable, if this person and this belief feels immovable, I need to set a boundary to find my way within it, if I can or can't. I don't know if that's even possible. And I think that empathy and compassion, for me, a lot of times show up as really, really strict boundaries, because that is the kind of thing to do, I think, overall. But it's very complicated and tricky, and I don't have an exact
That's fair. That's a loaded
answer.
Is there anyone else out there with a question? Wheeler.
You were kind of navigating that place where you found these new things about yourself, and then we're still kind of had the one foot in the church. And I guess you didn't really have anybody to talk to at that point, or did you? And if not, how did you like come up with your own thoughts on how to choose your right path?
The question was, when you were starting to figure out who you were, still had one foot in the church, knew that you had to make a change. Did you have someone to talk to about it, or how did you choose your path? For anyone who couldn't hear.
Great question. I did have a person, so my now wife, who was then just a beautiful girl I was best friends with, was like, you need to go to therapy. I have a therapist for you. And that's who I talked to about it. She was the only person truly that I had been open with. But the questions were so one loop that I got caught in for what felt like a million years was, I don't know how to choose Sammy and choose love without resenting her for having to lose my faith in my community, what I felt like at the time I'd lose my faith. And I don't know how to choose my faith and my community without resenting it for losing Sammy. And I got stuck in that fear loop for a really long time. And finally, looking in the mirror, truly, it was like right before my 30th birthday, and I just asked myself, is my life a reflection of who I want to be, or is it a response to people I don't want to disappoint? And that was like the final, like, get out of the closet, you silly, silly girl. But that journey, by the way, was about 3 years. So it was awful, right? Because I'd be in meetings at work and hearing what these people who were like family to me 6 months prior, and hearing what they're saying about the queer community, and I'm like, oh my God, you're talking about me. You don't even know you're talking about me, and I just don't know what to do. And it was, it was tough, you know. But those are the questions that gave me a push.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Sarah, really quick, what do you have?
Some of you have come before. I know my dad, Grandpa Paul.
Yeah.
He's usually here. He's not this year. But he's fifth generation Lutheran minister who loves everybody, including all the gay people. And now his nephew is sixth generation Lutheran minister and gay. And so it kind of makes me mad when I think people treat religion with expression and tolerance always. And I wonder, what is your relationship with God now? And how happy are you that you've retained your faith?
Yeah, great question. And I agree. Specifically, when we talk about Christianity, a lot of times what pops in our mind is evangelicalism, but there are so many, like, Celtic Christians back in the day, like, there are so many things, like, where every time I think I'm going so far left, I open a door and there was someone in the faith there before me, like, yes. So yeah, now I feel like I have, how I describe my faith now is, it is so much less fragile than it was. So many things are so much less important to me, and it doesn't matter to me what anyone else around me believes, but I do still have this very just special faith in God and with God that I treasure at a much deeper level. And so I could talk for years about that, but yeah, I think it's incredible to see when we take our lens out of some of the loudest voices, there have been still quiet voices all along telling us some really good stuff.
It's so poetic.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much, Brit. Yeah. Join us for the sermon tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at the Transfer Warehouse. And then following that, Brit will be at the book signing. Sorry, I'm plugging you hard while you're right here. There's going to be a book signing, which I would like to note has changed locations from what's listed in your program. It is going to be actually over at Telluride Arts HQ, where you saw Interplay. If you went and saw the opera, it is right by where we said it was going to be. So even if you go over there, you're probably going to find it. Just want to give you a heads up. Thanks so much, Brit. I'm really excited for tomorrow morning. It's going to be so awesome. Thanks. So far we're seeing, different layers of disruption within the self, disruption within community, disruption within I kept saying religion or the church when I was thinking of Brit's story, but I love the way that she reframed that as like kind of a disruption within the self. And next we are going to see a story about someone who also saw a lot of danger and a lot of harm being done in the community, and a section of that community that needed safety and needed to be seen. A lot of the young girls and the young kids needed a safe space to create and a safe space to exist after school. And I'll leave it there. And then we're gonna take it a little further after this film. This is a really incredible film that we got from Nat Geo. It's actually part of their Impact series. This episode is called Na Ponta dos Pés, which means on point. Enjoy. Give it up for Tuany Nascimento. Thank you, Tuany. Thank you. Whew, I love a reveal. I tell you, holy cow. Come on over. And I want to thank Jessica Hetty for joining us to translate tonight. Hey, Jessica. Once again, I am awestruck. Again, I feel like that's just my theme this weekend. I'll let you catch your breath a little bit. I'm sorry, I realize. So originally, we actually saw this film last year and so badly wanted to bring Tuany out for the festival, but again, with the pandemic, things didn't quite align, but it has been a dream to have her here, and the fact that it could work. I mean, we went back and forth trying to figure out visas, and the work that Tuany put in to come to the festival is such a gift. And I just want to acknowledge that, like, it's a really, really special thing that she came to join us. Yeah. And arranging meetings over Zoom with her translator. Like, she has a student that would translate for her so we could talk and figure this whole thing out. And seeing this film, and I never get tired of it. And I'm going to pass this through you, Jess. But it is so clear what a selfless person you are. And getting to work with you, I'm just like amazed. And I wonder, in watching that, it felt like there was never a pause, never a question, do I do this?
Bom, eu acho que não tem um outro sentido para mim na vida, a não ser continuar com o que eu faço. Eu descobri que na ponta dos pés ele não é só o meu caminho, mas ele é meu ar.
She's saying that this is her path and she's going to continue to walk it.
Oh, yeah. When did you know that it was your path? Was there a point in your life that it was clear?
Quando era claro para a senhora que é o caminho verdadeiro para você seguir esse caminho?
Para mim, esse caminho ficou claro quando a sociedade brasileira dizia que esse caminho não era para mim. Então, alguma coisa estava muito errada naquele sentido.
She's saying that she just arrived at a place where she knew it was the right thing for her to do, and it's not easy to do something like this in Brazil, especially in the part of Rio de Janeiro that she comes from, but she decided just to go for it.
I kept thinking, I was like, man, if I was just trying to practice and all of these kids were following me around.
Todos os meninas que sempre estão seguindo com a senhora.
But you're so kind and patient, and that was really incredible.
Bondade e paciência da senhora.
Where I know this was filmed a couple years ago. So what's up with the school now? What's the current status of the dance school?
Ela está perguntando o que é o momento que a escola de dança está experienciando agora mesmo, como são as coisas lá.
Bom, hoje a gente tem o segundo andar, né? A gente expandiu de 50 meninas para 380 atendidos.
Okay, quanto?
380.
I think she's saying 300, 360, something like that, students now, and they're going through like a second phase of just bringing up a whole nother level of girls.
A gente tem aulas de teatro, boxe.
Oh, they've also changed the school a lot. I interviewed her Thursday at the high school, so I know a little bit of it. They are also offering a lot of different classes now, including theater classes, boxing classes, and a lot of different things. So it's got expanded, and now they have their building, and things are going really well.
Qualificação profissional.
They're also teaching a whole series of professional qualification classes, teaching people vocational skills through the school as well.
So are you reaching more of the young boys in the community now as well?
Mesma pergunta que
tem meninos.
meninos. If you're está trabalhando mais com meninos e homens.
Por ter outras atividades, a gente tem meninos, mas no balé só 3.
So there are other things that the boys are involved in, like the boxing and the vocational ed and all that, but not so much the ballet.
Not yet. Do we have any questions from the audience for Tuany? I can't quite. Yeah, Geneva.
Do you get to put on performances for the community?
São shows para a comunidade para mirar ou vem para ver as danças.
Se a gente produz os shows?
Yeah.
A gente produz 2 vezes no ano apresentações, uma na comunidade e uma no teatro.
They do 2 performances a year, one that's in a theater and one that's just for the community, close to the dance studio.
Oh, yes.
2 questions. How did you first get involved in ballet? Who taught you? And second, what is the translation of the title?
Okay, I can just say the translation, the title is basically On Point.
With an
dancing.
E, like point shoe. Yeah.
E a segunda pergunta que ela tem, como é que a senhora iniciou a sua prática?
Eu comecei a dançar com 5 anos de idade, através de outros projetos sociais, dentro do próprio Complexo do Alemão.
She started dancing when she was 5 years old with some other social programs that came into the projects where she lives.
That's wonderful. Yes.
Where did the funding for the first school come from, and is there more funding, and where is it from?
Where did the funding for the first school come from, and if for the next and subsequently, like where will the additional funding come from moving forward?
Ela está perguntando onde vem o dinheiro que está apoiando todas as coisas que a senhora faz.
Atualmente a gente tem um fundo de um edital no Rio de Janeiro, enfim. É uma empresa particular que patrocinou o projeto durante 4 anos, mas no fim desses 4 anos o nosso apoio vem de pessoas individuais pelo mundo inteiro.
So there was some money available for the initial 4 years of the programming just through the city of Rio de Janeiro, and then now it's supported more by like individual contributions and donations.
So if people are interested in supporting the dance school, if they want to support, how can they do that?
Se a gente quer dar dinheiro para apoiar os programas, como é que a gente pode fazer isso?
Hoje, em especial, eu trouxe alguns cartões postais que no verso do cartão tem um QR Code para vocês acessarem e doarem pela plataforma internacional.
I think when you look around the festival where they have some of the merchandise, she has these postcards, beautiful pictures of her and some of the things happening at the school. And on the back, there's a QR code that you can use.
Perfect. And so we have those down in hospitality. So definitely check that out. Bassett, I saw you over here.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Muito prazer para vir, senhor.
Are you or the school experiencing any resistance from elements or interests locally or nationally who don't want to see education in that social class and economic class, but especially in young girls?
Ela está perguntando se a senhora encontra com algumas forças de resistência, a gente que não quer para razões políticas ou qualquer coisa que vá. A gente quer parar esse tipo de trabalho que faz, especialmente para as meninas.
O poder paralelo, digamos, os traficantes dentro do território, no Rio de Janeiro, eles não impedem nada do que a gente realiza. A gente encontra muito mais dificuldade do próprio governo brasileiro em se estabelecer dentro das instituições. Então, as políticas públicas de segurança que nos impedem de continuar.
I think she's saying that this was kind of, I didn't get all of that one, but she's saying that most of the resistance that comes might be closer from the community. I mean, actually really from the national government that doesn't necessarily want to see this kind of expansion there. Mas é o governo nacional ou qual auxilia mais, o governo nacional ou o governo do Rio?
Governo nacional.
The national government's helping more than the local government in Rio de Janeiro.
Yes, over here.
A gente quer estudo dança com a senhora.
Sintam-se à vontade para visitar o projeto no Rio, a gente vai receber.
She said you're welcome to come to the center in Rio. She'll be happy to receive you there.
Oh, we've got one more up here.
I really loved how the film ended with you modeling kind of a manifestation of believing, not knowing how it would manifest and come to be, and inspiring the other young women to do so. And I wanted to know, are they kind of taking the baton and going forward in that way?
Ela quer saber se ela gosta muito como termina o filme, com a senhora dizendo todas as palavras, inspirando a todas as meninas que estão lá. E ela quer saber se algumas delas estão tomando turnos em ser líderes também.
Bom, esse é um dos principais objetivos que eu tenho com Na Ponta dos Pés. É fazer com que elas entendam que elas fazem parte da sociedade, que elas não estão à margem dela. E a gente tem pelo menos 7 meninas que fazem parte das lideranças do projeto. 2 professoras, uma professora de artes. Enfim, elas estão dentro do processo de liderança para me substituírem, quem sabe.
She's saying that there are at least 7 of the young women that have grown up doing the program. 2 of them are ballet teachers now, and another one is an art teacher. And this is the main objective of her work, is to continue to inspire the other women to carry on with the work that she began.
Yes, give it up, everybody. Thank you so much, Tuany. Thank you so much, Jess, for facilitating. Jessica Hetty, too. Thank you. Tuany Nascimento, everybody. I'm so happy. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us this evening and celebrating these women who were so courageous in disrupting broken systems in so many varying capacities. That is our show for the night. I want to thank Tuany and Brit. I don't know where Brit's sitting now. Where are you? Hi, Brit. Thank you. And thank you to Sheila and Laura. Thank you all for being part of it and listening and celebrating these incredible women with us. Tonight, our Distill and Chill is going to be over at the Strong House, which is right past the transfer warehouse. I also promised Geneva that I would ask all of you to please return an umbrella if you borrowed one from the theater last night. Thank you all. Happy OT, and we'll see you at the Distill and Chill.
He just wants to love her, but his love is no match for her pride.